Just across the Zambian border in Rhodesia is the statue of David Livingstone. He discovered the Victoria Falls in 1855. In fact, he was the first white man to see the falls. They'd been known by the Bantu for a long time as the smoke that thunders, or the Motsi Otunya. The Victoria Falls are one of the most spectacular sights in the whole world. Over a mile wide, over 300 feet deep, twice as high as Niagara. This is the rainforest looking towards the main falls. This is a good view of the Devil's Cataract, or Leaping Water. This is 90 feet wide and 200 feet deep. Most of the water goes over the falls in March. This is August, the end of the dry season. So there's fairly little water at this time of year. Warthog grubbing for roots right at the edge of the falls in the rainforest. Good view there of the main falls, 325-foot drop into the canyon. And the Zambezi then winds its way through these canyons, series of canyons, and then eventually down to Kariba. You see the shadow of the Falls Bridge there, which separates Zambia from Rhodesia. By the banks of the Zambezi. A small village, a tourist village, by the banks of the Zambezi. Traditional dancing. And the local witch doctor, purely for the tourists. And craftsmen, they're working in soapstone. One of the great hotels in Africa, the Victoria Falls Hotel. This really is a very good place to relax. I was there 2 years ago in 1988 and it's hardly changed a bit. Great views across to the gorges and the Falls Bridge. And a marvellous place to relax. Not very far from Victoria Falls is the Wankie National Park. This covers 5,250 square miles and it's one of Africa's great game reserves. He was staying at the Cinematella camp. Tremendous views across the Kalahari Sands. Very dry, arid landscape. You can see for miles and miles. But we had to be up very early in the morning to spot the game. During the heat of the day, the animals tend to hide away. You see how dry the landscape is. One of the things you shouldn't do, as we're doing there, is leaving the car. It can be highly dangerous. I think we're a little naive at that stage. That's an impala, a male impala, and female impala. Get back in your car. It really can be quite dangerous. That's one of the reasons why. Our first sight of a lion in Africa. Early morning on its kill. Baboons. Oh, there's a kudu, very shy antelope. One of the best places to see game, of course, is the waterholes, and there are many of these in Wankie. This is either very early morning or late evening. This is the main camp in Wankie, a bit more civilised than the one at Cinematella. It's a warthog actually in the main camp. Obviously lots of giraffes in Wankie. Our first sight of African elephants. Quite a big herd. Watch out for the crocodile in a minute. There he goes. This is a herd of wildebeest. And sunset on one of the pans. Now off to Bulawayo. Bulawayo is a major city in Rhodesia, 280 miles from Victoria Falls, in the heart of Matabeleland. We stayed just outside Bulawayo, in a small motel called the Glass Castle. Graceful dive into the pool. You'll be seeing a few of these during this film. We didn't actually go into the city of Bulawayo. We spent our time in the Matopos Hills. These rise from the generally flat country around Bulawayo. They're quite famous, these hills. They proved impregnable when held by the Matabele in the 1896 rebellion. And they're also a hotspot during the Bush Wars in the 1970s. It's quite a good place to see game. There's a small game reserve called the Rhodesia National Park. And being small, you see a lot of animals in a short time. These are white rhino, which were almost extinct in the 1960s, and now it's the black rhino which is suffering. The white rhino is much more docile than the black rhino. As you can see here. Now we're going up to see some Bushman paintings. The guide there is a very old man. It's very, very fit. It's quite a walk up this copy, and it was a very, very hot day. a troop of baboons by the Rhodes Dam. This was completed by Cecil Rhodes in 1903. I think now we're on our way up to the World's View, where there's the grave of Cecil Rhodes, the founder of modern Rhodesia, who died in 1902. A tremendous view from World's View. From Bulawayo we went on to Fort Victoria and the Great Zimbabwe Ruins, which is 17 miles from Fort Victoria. The Zimbabwe ruins were discovered in 1868. Originally, they were thought to be over 3,000 years old, and they were identified with the ancient Ophir, from where King Solomon obtained his gold. They're now thought to be medieval and of Bantu origin. In fact, radiocarbon dating has dated them somewhere between 500 and 700 AD. This is the road from the Zimbabwe ruins to the hotel where we stayed. We saw some cheetah just by the roadside. This is the Shepherd's Hotel, just near Great Zimbabwe. Oh well, another dive. Dinner time. Close to the hotel was the Kyle Dam. This was built for irrigating the Lowveld and formed a huge lake with a shoreline of 160 miles. There's quite a lot of game around the perimeter of the lake. We went on a game viewing trip in a speedboat early in the morning around the lake's perimeter and saw quite a few animals. Rhino there, watching jump up when the guide claps his hands. Watch out for another crocodile as well. There he goes. From there we went on to the Nyanga Mountains. This is countryside which is completely atypical of Africa. Rolling grass-covered downs and mountains. Much of this is at altitudes of between 6,000 and 7,000 feet. This is the Pungwe Falls. In the distance you can see the mountains of Mozambique. Beautiful view across the Pungwe Gorge into Mozambique, and that water really was cold. The great thing about this place being very, very high is that the atmosphere is very fresh and clean and there are no mosquitoes. Unfortunately, this was a very, very dangerous area to be in during the Civil War. Now on to Salisbury, the capital of Rhodesia. Now of course Harare. We stayed, I think, at the Kentucky Hotel, just outside Salisbury. Not sure where this was. Get in there. The area around Lake Kariba is a very wild area, and it's a tsetse fly area, so we had to have the car sprayed at one of the controls. And just near Chirundu we met this huge elephant, and it meant business. We didn't stay there long. Kariba Dam. This was completed in 1959 and supplies power to both Zambia and Rhodesia. It's a huge dam. The dam wall is 420 feet high and 2,000 feet long. Lake Kariba, formed by the dam, is the largest man-made lake in the world. It covers over 2,000 square miles and created by damming the Zambezi River. Well, I'm enjoying myself. Cheers.